Tonight, with the ceasefire in tatters, Donald Trump is all over the place on Iran, relying on familiar threats and old tactics. The U.S. military's naval blockade of Iranian ports went back into effect just hours ago, and it was followed by additional U.S. strikes in southern Iran, according to Iranian state media. Iran's claims that they have struck U.S. military assets in Jordan, including an area where F-18 fighter jets are stationed, have not been independently verified by CNN. Now, the rapid escalation comes a day after Trump said that the U.S. would act as a guardian of the Strait of Hormuz. But the president's endgame for the war remains entirely unclear. In an interview tonight, Trump again threatened to bomb Iran to submission if they don't negotiate.
We're going to hit them very hard tomorrow night. We're going to hit them very hard the night after. And then next week it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate.
Do you believe the Iranians are serious about making a deal?
I think they have no choice.
Why haven't they yet?
I think if I didn't do the way I'm doing, they would never make a deal.
And in addition to the specific, Trump again threatened the apocalyptic.
You better make a deal. You're not going to have anybody left. We're being very careful with the civilian population, as you know, but I said, you better make a deal. You're not going to have anything left.
And you think they will?
They should. I don't know if they will or not.
Joining us now in our fifth seat is Max Boot. He's a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and the author of Reagan, His Life and Legend. Max, we've heard a lot of this before from President Trump. Any sense of whether any of it is to be believed?
Welcome back, family. Welcome, welcome. Tonight, we're back at the table at NewsNight with Abby Phillip on CNN, and we are locked on Scott Jennings. Max Boot, the bold guy, was a Republican for decades. Just remember that Max is bitter about Trump. Boot advised the three losing campaigns of John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Marco Rubio. And then the day after Trump won in 2016, he walked out of the party and later wrote a whole book about why he left the right, except that nobody cares. His argument in this clip doesn't even make sense. In my opinion, and as all the panel agrees, Iran is predictably unreliable and brutal. I mean, it's happy to use its own people as human shields. And President Trump, changing his stance on television is only sensible. I wouldn't be broadcasting my own tactics when it comes to buying a property, let alone negotiating a war. The CNN panel has the luxury to pretend to be high-minded, and they are so out of touch. Period. Before we roll, please do me a favor. Hit subscribe, tap that like, drop me a comment because I want to know, was Scott Jennings right to reject the idea that America and Iran are equally untrustworthy? And why does CNN keep reaching for the one Republican who left the party to lecture the rest of us? Tell me down below. Appreciate you guys. NewsNight with Abby Phillip, CNN. Let's have a watch.
It's really hard to take seriously anything that Trump says, Abby. I mean, look at what happened just this week. Yesterday, he says, I'm going to start charging a 20% toll on traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Today, he says, never mind. I mean, no wonder it's so hard to negotiate with them, and no wonder that we're having so much trouble getting an agreement with the Iranians to stick, because he changes his mind basically every day. He throws things out there, he takes them back. Obviously, the Iranians are no better. They're no more sincere in their negotiating style. So you have two very duplicitous, untrustworthy parties trying to negotiate an agreement. No wonder that the agreement they reached in mid-June blew up. And now, of course, Trump is back to recycling golden oldies, his threats against Iran. We all remember in early April when he threatened that an entire civilization will die tonight. That was a prelude to a ceasefire, of course, with Iran. Now he's back to once again threatening to kill lots of Iranians, blow up infrastructure, destroy power plants, and so forth. Is he serious this time? Nobody knows. But one thing we can be certain of is that if he carries out these threats, Iran will retaliate. They're not going to take it sitting down. They still have the capacity to do a lot of damage, not only to traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, but to energy infrastructure throughout the Persian Gulf region, even to desalinization plants. And so if Trump carries out these threats, Iran will probably carry out their threats. and the energy shock that we saw in recent months will get much, much worse.
So, Scott, I mean, does Trump know what his end game is?
Well, I think he wants the end game to be a world where Iran comes to its senses and makes a deal and chooses to act rationally.
Why would they do that if they've? I mean, if Trump has threatened all these things before,
the idea that
why would they do that?
The idea that this particular regime would act rationally has always been a lesser percentage chance. So I guess the end game then shifts to, okay, what can we do from a military side to try to bring them around? He's reinstituted the naval blockade, which I think before actually was quite promising. You know, we didn't have ongoing military strikes, but we did have a blockade that was, I think, pretty harmful to Iran. But you have to exercise time and patience with a blockade, and we'll see how much time and patience the administration has for it. The president previously ran out of patience when the Iranians kept violating the memorandum of understanding, and he seems to be out of patience with them today. I don't blame him. Also, I disagree with Max. I don't think there's any equivalence between the United States and Iran when it comes to our credibility, our military power, our values, and what we stand for on the world stage. To say that there's some equivalence between these two countries, I think is ridiculous.
Well, I mean,
As usual, you're mischaracterizing what I said, Scott. I wasn't
You
saying
said they were the same.
No, I did not say there was any more.
We'll roll the tape later, Max.
No,
You said equally duplicitous.
No.
You said equally duplicitous?
What I said, Scott, let's try to set the record straight. I did not say there was any kind of moral equivalence between the United States and Iran. Iran is an abhorrent regime. What I suggested is that the leaders of both countries are duplicitous in their negotiating styles and can't be trusted, which is why it's so hard for them
Thank
to
you for
reach an agreement
restating
at
my
6.
correct argument.
That's not the same.
well, yeah, I mean, it's really not the same thing. I mean, how they negotiate, I think, is the big issue here. Trump is every day changing his mind about what the objectives are, what the goalposts are, what his red lines are, and Iran presumptively is doing the same. So how do you get two parties to the table where nobody's really sure if anybody is really on the up and up?
I think, unfortunately, at this point, the only way to bring the Iranians to the table with any sincerity is to make the partisans in Iran, the IRGC and other hardliners, adopt the same position of some of the Arakci and Ghalibaf, who are more willing to negotiate. And I think the only way to do that might be with continued military strikes. The fundamental problem with the MOU was that there was a, vagueness in the Lebanon situation where each side could allow tit for tat, where Hezbollah was able to fire rockets, Israel would respond. And the other big vagueness was Article 5, where it wasn't clear whether Iran actually has control, and they've used that now to basically say we're no longer following the MOU. That was a problem.
I mean,
and that's not going to be resolved
I
until
think
the U.S. continues the blockade.
Those two are certainly problems with the MOU, but one of
they
the
relied on
bigger
those
problems
to
with the
ignore
MOU is
following.
that there are actually absolutely no real concessions in the MOU from Iran and only concessions from the United States. And I still don't understand. Trump keeps talking more bombing, okay? He even was asked about ground troops. Let's play what he said.
Do you still intend to take Cargill?
So I can't say that to you because if I did, it would be foolish, right? But it'd be nice to make a little headlines, but it would be foolish. But I'll tell you about Cargill. And so we've already...
Are you ruling out a ground campaign in a limited capacity?
I don't want to say that either, but I would say no if I thought it was appropriate. I'd say sometimes you need a ground campaign, but we have other people that will do the ground campaign for us.
Why would you take any options off the table?
Who is
It would
he
be
talking?
silly.
Who is he
do the
talking
ground
about?
campaign for us?
Who's going to do it
Who's
for
going to do
us?
that?
No, he's saying that we have other military
No, he said
assets.
we have other people that will do the ground campaign for us. That's what he said.
What I understood him to mean was that we have different ways of getting the outcomes that we want. And by the way, Israel does sit in the region over there dealing with this as well. But no matter, why would you take any options off the table in a television interview?
Well,
That's crazy.
I think if Trump is really putting ground troops on the table, that is a
Why would you
profoundly
ever tell the enemy,
that is a
"I won't do this
profoundly
and I won't do that"?
unpopular. Well, I guess let's put it the other way. Iran knows that ground troops are not really on the table. They read the same polls that we do. Okay, they're not stupid. They understand that there's domestic politics that Trump has to deal with.
We had a brief incursion.
I don't see why would Iran even take that seriously.
But I take issue.
Are you mad that he wouldn't take it off the table, or that he?
Well, I think ground troops is something that this president said that he wasn't going to do. I don't think the American people want to send American soldiers in to fight this regime. I also just want to point out that I feel like there is just a casual passing by of an elimination or the killing of civilians to meet our outcome. He has said that before.
Like the 7 or 8 that were killed by Iran in strikes on boats in the Strait of Hormuz over the past week. I think
saying
this is
I
why
want
the
to
U.S.
hold.
should re-engage.
I want to hold my
taking back
president
the
to
Strait.
a different standard than the Iranian regime.
And
we should, and I think that
by not operating terrorist
blatantly-
proxies, by not developing nuclear weapons and
So
promising to
Joe,
eliminate other
are
countries
you
off the map.
okay? Are you okay if we just blanket kill civilians in Iran?
We're not blanket killing everyone. You're
But-
giving a hypothetical that is not true.
I'm
and
not living a
happening.
hypothetical. I have ears, and I heard what the president just said in an interview, and you heard it too, and then you also read it on
residential
Easter Day.
neighborhoods. He's not doing
But
that.
he's
To frame
saying
it as though the president of the United States is just indiscriminately bombing
I didn't
civilians.
say he
It's
would.
wrong.
I didn't
It's
say
wrong for you to
he
that.
is right now.
Let me
Have there been
just on
casualties?
this
Sure,
point.
but
Did he
just on
present
this
it as an
point.
option in that interview, and does that make you
He
comfortable?
presented the option of bombing power
Civilians.
plants. No, power plants and,
And
bridges.
people.
No, that's what he said.
And people.
Power plants
And their
bridges.
people.
And he
Okay.
said he teased the apocalypse. Yes, you know
And-
how you bring about the apocalypse? You allow Iran to get a
And
nuclear
people.
weapon and threaten
And
another
humans.
nuclear
Hold
power
on.
Israel.
Debris.
Hold
That's how
on,
you
hold
get
on.
the apocalypse.
Just two quick things. I mean, Trump did suggest that there would be nothing left, effectively, was what
Including
he said.
humans.
He
Iran
also
gets a
said,
nuclear weapon
no,
and
I'm
threatens
talking
Israel
about what
with it,
he,
and we have a
no,
nuclear
Joe,
war.
we're not changing the subject. We're talking about what he said he was going to do.
Yes.
He also threatened that a civilization would end. So I don't know what he means by that, but it seems to suggest that he's threatening the enemy with obliteration. But then here's what he said when he was asked about an attack that already happened on a school in which over 100 children and adults were killed. Here's what he said.
I don't think anybody's going to ever be able to say what happened there because if they don't know by now, and as of a couple of weeks ago they didn't know, and while things like that happen in war, there are missiles flying all over the place, and I don't know how anybody could say that we shot it.
Look, CNN's reporting suggests that what he just said there is not true. According to our reporting on July 7th, U.S. military officials knew within days of the strike on the school how that mistake happened. It was obviously old information. So, again, our standards are higher than Iran's. They're not the same. We don't hold ourselves to the Iranian standard. We hold ourselves to our standard. So when the president kind of glosses over this stuff, it undermines American values.
And their regime doesn't care if their citizens die. They operate on totally different rules. So I just think it's two people playing a game that don't have the same limitations. I mean, we have democracy here where people that live here get to have an opinion about the president's actions. And part of the reason we even engaged in this, part of how it was marketed in a sense to people at the top of this year was that Iran is a regime that subjugates its people, and we have to be the standard bearer for freedom. So we should care when those same people are then dying from our strikes.
I also think you can hold these two truths. I think you can say you want the Iranian regime to fall, and you don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, and you also don't want our country to be the reason why Iranian civilians are killed.
But who's arguing that? Who's on the waving that flag? No, zero people. Exactly
president
zero
casually
people.
says
the
it.
president is not suggesting we bomb schools. The president is not suggesting we bomb civilians. Just stop saying it. It's nonsense.
All right, we're going to
Tell
leave it
him
there.
that.
The president promises a primetime speech on.
And that is Scott Jennings refusing to let Max Boot flatten the difference between America and Iran. Let me run it back for you. Max Boot says this is two untrustworthy parties trying to cut a deal, and Scott Jennings stops him right there. Scott Jennings says there is no equivalence between the United States and Iran, not on credibility, not on military power, not on values. And to pretend there is, Scott Jennings says, is ridiculous. And I completely agree. Max Boot then says, you are mischaracterizing me, Scott. I never said moral equivalence. But Scott Jennings heard exactly what you and I heard. And then there is the ground troops panic. The table wants to act like Trump is about to launch an invasion. And Scott Jennings says, why should Trump rule out anything publicly? That's just crazy. And I agree. Why should he rule out anything? The CNN panel has the luxury to see this war as a thought experiment where they get to be charitable with your money and other people's lives. Trump is dealing with this as a hardcore military negotiation, as he should. He will use the carrot and the stick at the same time, the way any negotiator would. And you watch the whole segment, the whole exchange right here on my channel with no advertisement breaks cutting into the moment, which is more than CNN will give you. So hats off to you for that. Comment below, is there any equivalence between the United States and Iran? Yes or no? Did Max Boot walk it back the second Scott Jennings pushed him? What was his point anyway? He's just despairing. He wants us to feel like there's nothing we can do. And should CNN tell you Max Boot left the party before they sit him down to explain foreign policy? Drop it down below, smash that like, subscribe if you're new here, and there is a tip jar link below if you want to support the channel. Hats off to Scott Jennings, NewsNight with Abby Phillip, CNN. Appreciate you guys. God bless.